I'm Lawrence Yang. I'm a family doc in Surrey, British Columbia, and I'm really interested about having conversations around healthcare improvement. And thanks, Lori. Lori Vesper, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and kind of, I think our viewers would want to know a little bit about what made you so interested and passionate about healthcare quality improvement.
Um, I've been around healthcare my whole working career, ever since healthcare and leadership, I'll have to say, ever since I think I got my first job when I was 14, and that was going into a leadership role into a local golf course that I used to work at. So my sisters and I all took turns one after another managing this golf course. So learning how to run things in the golf course, learning how to work with golfers, which I understand are very adventurous people. They would golf in the snow and they'd have glow in the dark balls or, things to make things work, and just learning how their passion made them choose to do certain things that allowed them to achieve what they wanted to do. So that was sort of my first goal or lesson in learning how to create something out of nothing. And then I started working in mental health for a long time and got into going down that road, and then started working in the hospital system. And now I'm working more leadership healthcare roles.
I see. And yeah, I can see kind of the parallels between working at a golf course where you're doing customer service kind of stuff, and you're dealing with people who are kind of specialized in a particular activity, and they have certain demands, and they have the certain ways that they like things to be done, and you're there kind of problem solving to try to figure out.
Well, I really appreciated working at the golf course a lot. There was so many things. I was the manager of it, but I was also the cook for a long time. So I would cook for banquets for 250 or 300 people at a time. So I would run these, bear and a beef 3-course meals, and have to learn how to strategize to cook things in backwards order. So you have to wash the lettuce at a certain point in time and peel all the corn, and those are seemingly menial skills, but you know what? They taught me a lot about having to be prepared and how to know things have to happen in succession. And sometimes you have to do things that you don't always enjoy doing, but they're necessary so that the overall goal is achieved at the end of the day. And you have to know that all of your actions work towards that. So it was a really, I hope my 3 kids one day will be able to experience a job such as that, so that they can learn all these things like humility and stick-to-itiveness and perseverance and challenge and strife and failure. I think without these things, you won't know how to be a better service. So that's what really through schooling, because I had to start and stop schooling many times throughout my career as well, and I have many years of post-secondary education that I never amalgamated. And so finally one day I found something that I could amalgamate some of my years of service, and it took me into a leadership degree. So I graduated with honors and with a BA of leadership while I was finishing my nursing degree, and went on to get my master's of science in e-health, telemedicine, and chronic disease management. So that's where I'm at today. And yeah, so this morning I had one of many meetings with my cohort of doctors that I'm working with around the world. I work with one guy from the Doctors of BC, the World Health Organization, and I have another emergency physician in Romania, another one who works out of China, and another one who works out of Mexico, and Dr. Rashid works out of Saudi Arabia. So the 6 of us are together in a cohort group, and we're creating an e-box, which is basically bringing quality care, quality clinic work, dealing with metabolic syndrome mainly, into areas that wouldn't otherwise have healthcare. So using things like telemedicine, chronic disease management, and sort of creating an online EMR that's open source, so it's free, and trying to make it so that people around the world can have really good healthcare. So I sort of found that global niche that I've been looking for, delivering good quality healthcare. And it's really interesting to work with these 6 people that we're having to deal with time zones and having to deal with deadlines, and it's getting up at 3 a.m. to have a meeting at 4 p.m. somewhere else in the world, and it's been an interesting journey.
Wow. So you kind of at 14, you started at the golf course. You learned about complex processes and process improvement and customer experience and client experience and all that stuff. And then you went into nursing first, and then from
I
nursing
did.
to
I
leadership?
did, well, I went into psych nursing of all things. So I did 3 years of psych nursing and I was almost finished and I broke my ankle. And I had to take a year off. And I kind of thought, I don't know if I want to be limited to psych nursing. So then I just challenged my LPN exam and worked as an LPN for years. Then I was the first LPN to RN bridge in program in 2004 to 2007 at UFB. And I got pregnant and had a really complicated pregnancy. So I had to stop and had my child who had to have surgery. So when she was 5, I was going to go back, and that was challenging to go back to work with that. And so I continued on working as an LPN and had already done 3 years of my RN degree and thought, no, I can't quite finish that at this point in time. So I worked all over the hospital system. My background is emergency mainly. So when I graduated in 2002 and I top of my class for my LPN school, I've always worked in emerge, and I always have put myself in challenging positions because I thought I want to learn more. So I did my preceptorship in the OR at VGH because I knew I would never work there. So I wanted to at least experience it to get a real world experience. And I think part of that drive that I have is when I was 16, I was an exchange student as well. And so I lived in Mexico for a year. And so I taught English in Mexico, and I didn't speak Spanish when I went down there, and I spoke Spanish after I stayed there, of course, but learning how to challenge yourself and put yourself in positions where you're not quite familiar with things, but at least you have one square of safety where you can kind of launch from. So that was something that I always sort of tried to force myself to get outside my comfort zone, to just to try to achieve more and see what else is out there and what else I can improve upon. So that was a priority for me. So when I was doing my work in ER, I also took training to do a ventilator for chronic care ventilator nursing. And so I've done that program at GF Strong, and that was really great to learn through that lady. And I managed teams in extended care. I also managed, I was part of a lot of pilot projects. We were the waiting room LPN in Abbotsford. And then we launched the new hospital in Abbotsford at the new ER. And that's when it was exciting to see sort of the beginnings of all of that. But all throughout this, I continued to want more. And I never stopped learning to try to drive and be part of a team and try to be, create more things that were of benefit. And then eventually I started to work in the medical clinics, and I started to manage medical clinics. And that's when I got my leadership degree. So I was doing two, 3 degrees at a time to try to, make things, because I wasn't sure where I wanted to land. And I just wasn't quite happy with the limitations of doing just one type of job. So I got into existential analysis, and so I started to take some coursework, and I think that's where you and I sort of cross paths, is when I was taking my degree in existential analysis psychoanalytics, and I found that necessary for my clinic work and working with patients and being able to learn how to better communicate with them, being able to better understand why do things matter anyways? Because it's okay if they don't matter to you, but what's interesting is, why does it matter to the patient or to the person that you're communicating with, or where are they coming from? And so learning some skills of, inquisitive interviewing and trying to be non-biased. And it's really, really hard dealing with your own biases. Like, it's incredible how you don't realize that your thoughts, they're always biased to somebody. And so trying to be curious to kind of find out where that stems from is one of the things that I've learned. The more I learn things, the more I realize I don't know enough. And so I just challenged myself to try to learn some more. So I was doing EA as well, and that led me into leadership. So I was able to amalgamate some of my post-secondary education, and I finished my leadership degree, which is phenomenal. And that was really interesting to be able to do that. So that, coupled with my years of working in emergency and my years of working with, medical and path and surgical and extended care. So taking that into a lens, which led me to, I want to do something more where I have things that I can offer. It's just I'm limited with some of the letters behind my name, which is really challenging. So that's where it led me to my eHealth degree. So I thought, I can do something in a different capacity. I don't necessarily need to know how to, um, I need to know that things exist. I don't need to be able to be the one to action them. So that led me to more sort of a scholarly base of doing that sort of thing. So yeah, that's my background.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really made me want to invite you on this platform is that it's so obvious to me that you have such a breadth of understanding and wisdom around healthcare systems and leadership and mindset and growth and humility. That's those are the messages that I see come across from your posts and your interactions. You're always challenging us about exploring new paradigms of thinking and trauma informed practice and um, generally I find you to be a very very positive person. You're not critical, you're always staying curious and asking powerful questions, and I think that's inspiring. I think that what you do online, I think you're shifting culture. um, and now that you remind me that you did a leadership degree, like an actual like dedicated focus on leadership, it kind of makes sense. Tell
Yeah.
us a little tell us a little bit more about that. Like if somebody wanted to do a leadership degree, what were some of your best experiences? Where did you get some of the best
So, it's
education?
funny because I went to Trinity Western University, which is a Christian-based or faith-based school. And so the leadership degree that they have created is for people that Linda Long is, I don't know if she's still working there or not, but she actually created the program there. And what her goal was to try to make it so that everybody, so one of the favorite things that I love in healthcare is everybody deserves good health. Everybody, everybody deserves good health. And so Linda Long from Trinity used to always say, everybody deserves a good education. Everybody does. And so a lot of the times that you are timed out. So if you've taken coursework and it's X amount of years old, but you've taken, let's say if you've taken a BA in psychology 20 years ago, you can go on to your master's tomorrow and start a master's program. But if you've taken almost all of your psychology 20 years ago, you can't complete it. So you're timed out on that. And so that's really challenging because a lot of the concepts, as you know, there's certain steps. You have to have X amount of credits in this and X amount in that. And so I have a lot of post-secondary education. I did I dabbled in psychology research. I did programs in that and research-based things. But anyways, with the leadership degree at Trinity, it was interesting because though I'm not a churchgoer every Sunday by any means, I learned that the way that they have done their program was that it's not a Christian faith, it's any faith that you want to believe in a higher power or something that you want to sort of believe that there's intrinsic motivations out there that allow you to have some guidance into why you do the things that you want to do. And so that coupled with the same time I was taking my existential analysis, it gave me a different lens to try to dig deep introspectively and then also look at the motivators for behind for other people. So my leadership program, all of the coursework, I was able to parallel my learning and my experiences in healthcare. And so all the lessons that I learned from leadership, I was able to go, oh, this is interesting because this is how I could apply this lens to these situations in healthcare. And, we really could make something different about it. And the acceptance that I felt there, despite not having completed my RN degree prior, which was a big crucible for me, a big lesson to learn that it's okay. It actually was a fundamental building block in making me stronger, making me a better asset to healthcare to be able to do things, and gave me a bigger push to be able to be a better conduit. So I have learned how to build from that. So that was great. And my capstone project actually ended up being timely. So I graduated in 2019 or 2020. And so my capstone project was management and leadership of a primary care clinic during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so it was phenomenal because I was able to take all of the things that I had done, and I run a program as well with a local physician in healthcare management, so weight loss and self-care concepts. And so I was able to couple that sort of thing into into the leadership of oneself, into a leadership of a team, and then taking that into the COVID-19 pandemic. So I was able to do a lot of really good dedicated research into the correlations with WCB regulations and Doctors of BC, and trying to get all of these different things because it was wonderful. I had to do it for school. So it really gave me that inertia and that incentive to be able to really delve deep. And I, as you know, I love rabbit holes. I love to learn what I don't know. I love to learn, it's called an innovation gap. That was the greatest thing I learned in school. So you learn one thing, you solve a problem, but in solving the one problem, it creates two more problems. So now you get to solve those two more problems, which then creates two more problems. And so we're going from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 32 to, so it's quite fun for people like me who really have that insatiable need to keep learning and challenging and growing and building, because eventually there's lines that intersect all of these things. And you can learn that you can actually harness that and you can build something from it. So with the COVID-19 project that I did, it was great because I was able to give back to the clinic that I worked at, teach my staff who didn't know anything about donning PPE, doffing PPE, had no idea about any of these things because it's not taught in school. So it's great to learn those gaps that your team faces and the uncertainty that they face and addressing them. And I was able to put that lens as a leader perspective for how can we help people? How can we help them in a way that's not threatening, that allows them to learn at the pace that they can and be able to do something that's useful and personally satisfying as well. Like the clinicians that I work with are all amazing and human. They too have, families, and they too have lives at the end of the day. And they too have this sense of having to be secure and powerful and strong. And that's their role there. But at the same time, they're also human. And so it was nice to be the leader and sort of separate from the frontline staff and from the clinicians, and to be able to be the support for both of those and be able to work cohesively together as a team. So that was really exciting to be able to do that. So with when I finished it, I wasn't even quite finished my program, and I knew I needed to do another one. So I was looking for a master's program. So that's where I found my master's project, and being an international student formerly myself.
Yeah, water.
Sure, Trevor, go ahead.
I can't make it.
I'll get it for you, okay? Sorry, I have
Go ahead.
some. Okay, give me 1 second here.
Do it.
So then, where was I speaking, Lawrence? I got sidetracked.
Well, yeah, you were talking about. I guess this is your current master's project. Is that you were?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was sorry. Thank you. My current master's project is through Rome Business School, so it's in Italy, and so it's neat because I like this flair of international studies, because I think if you want to achieve something different, you need to be prepared and willing to do things differently. So I thought, okay, well, how can I get what I need to get done? So I was looking for a cost-effective program that fit in my timeline, that fit in my budget, because I put myself through school. So I don't have any debt, because that's important, because we need to build and prepare for our future. So I was trying to meet all of my needs. And so I found this school, and it's a Masters of E-Health program, and it's great. It teaches you all of the how to program, a little bit of health information, informatics, HL7 programs, how to do EMRs, how to do, my very first project was, if you were stranded on an island and you wanted to build using a teaching resource hospital, and you had somebody who fell down and had a head injury, and you had one neurologist who could do surgery at this site but not at that site, and your patient was over on an island, how would you get them? How would you provide care for them? So it was neat to kind of be like, oh, I don't know. I'm not a neurosurgeon, and that's okay. But I do need to know all the facets that exist to get these things done to treat the patient. So that also allowed for me to understand that I don't need to know how to do all the things. I just need to know they exist. And so to know how to sort of create them, because those people can do those jobs and I can do my job. So it's just a matter of learning how to work together. So that was really exciting to do that. And then now my capstone project, we finish. I've already presented my final. It's almost like a dissertation. It was 60 pages long that I ended up writing. Yeah, so it was really exciting, and it's all about the concept. I wanted to create something I wanted to create something that was an e-box. So I kind of coined it e-box, and I thought, well, imagine if we could have a CCAN. And so again, with COVID-19 in mind and all these other viruses that are coming in. So imagine if we could have a CCAN, which is pretty inexpensive to create. And you could actually take that CCAN and transport it via helicopter to one area, remote area, anywhere in the world, and have a patient come in one side, do self-serve stops for healthcare, and exit and have it close and have it do the little robot UV ultralight, so it kills everything, and then opens again for another person to come through. So I pitched that to my group of people, and I thought, what if we created an e-box and we could do it global? And what do we need to do? That standardization, because the world is a little bit in chaos and turmoil right now in terms of regulations, and these rule applies to this country but not to that country. Well, the WHO is standardized, as far as I know, around the world, or at least they're trying to become. And so I had pitched again, well, what if we use WHO guidelines? Because at least they're a neutral. There's somebody that everybody knows that is trying to achieve better things. So what if we incorporate their guidelines for how we deliver healthcare? And then what if we use something amazing like the Starlink, so you can go wherever you are, you're connected? And what if we have it solar powered so that you don't have to worry about battery operations? And what if we have it that we have all these different, places where you can sit, and you can have people that are pre-recorded telling the patient to sit down and do their blood pressure, and then they can do the automatic remote cardiology, hold your hand, and you can get a basic ECG covering. And so you can have somebody from another area say, oh, okay, good, we have a customer, let's see their demographics, let's see their biometrics, let's see how we can help service them. Then we can have a touch tone picture screen where it has all of the areas of the languages that we go to, that has automatic printouts for them to get the patient teaching modules out, so that they can get patient teaching in their language at their level, right, of understanding. And then this could actually create need for an e-box academy. So what does that mean? Then we actually go to the local countries that we're going to be going to. We employ people that are local, that are invested in the health of their people that live around them. And we can actually create something where we employ them, we train them, and we train the trainer, and they then in turn can give back to their community. They can help walk somebody through the e-box, right? So that's what the big grand thing was, and hopefully one day it'll come to pass. So we had to scale it back. We pitched that to the school, and they went, oh, it's amazing, but wow, too big. So then what we did was we brought it back to, okay, well, what is the biggest challenge that is out there right now with healthcare? And diabetes is rampant. And with my program that I run with a physician here, we talk about, we call it the menu program. So it's medical education for nutritional utilization. And so it's with Dr. DeClerc here in Mission. And it was all about teaching people how to eat better and live better and sleep better and have better social atmosphere and move better. So those 5 key concepts of living well, like eat, sleep, move, stress, and social, and learning how to have awareness around it, and learning how to teach people how to do it. And this was where my existential analysis really came into play, and why I chose to do that, because I wanted to be a better service to my patients and a better service to my team. So with the master's program, I amalgamated those teachings, and we brought that into with a metabolic syndrome. And we are now launching in Saudi Arabia, because one of the doctors who is in Saudi Arabia, he actually has offered to run the program through there. So we really are taking e-health to a new level, like really the technologies of doing remote distance management and core key concepts. So that was why the page was 60 pages long, because there's a lot of information in there, and it's been really exciting to be able to really bring this to fruition. And sometimes I sit back and I think, oh, like, what did I do this morning? I just had a telecom with 4 different countries, and we did these things, and it's a little surreal because it's just me, and I'm quite simple, and I don't need very much, but I really want to be of service. And ideally at the end of the day, I'd love to have a little stomp in the sand to say I was here. I don't need the accolades, but I would like to be of service, and I'd like to be of, helping to create something that's meaningful and impactful, and hopefully, have a change on how we can deliver things at a local level or even at a global level. It would be wonderful. So yeah, I'm not done yet. Yeah.
It's so cool how you're synthesizing, like you're taking all these different bits of wisdom from everywhere in your life, and you're combining them, and it sounds like you're like getting ready to package them and then spread them internationally.
So I realized that, as silly as it is, you really do have to have the letters behind your name. And it's not silly. I don't mean to downgrade that for anybody. These letters are valuable and you've earned them. But I realize how to get to the areas that you want to do the things that you want to do, you do need those letters behind your name. And so I've already registered for my doctorate program that I'm going to do, and it's a doctor of business administration, but with a healthcare concept. So I'm going to start that in the new year once I launch my new job, which I'm doing. And so I start that in January, but I think it'll really coincide nicely with managing hospital systems, and then being able to do a DBA with a healthcare concept to try to really lend those areas together. So I've taken a job recently in Port Hardy where I'll help manage the hospital and the primary care clinics there. And so really my hope of being able to utilize my eHealth masters to do remote telemedicine, chronic disease management will again be able to be realized. So this is something that, again, I don't need to know how to do these things. I just need to know how that they exist. And if I can help facilitate for one person to have an easier way of getting healthcare, because everybody deserves good health, then that would be the little stomp in the sand. Maybe that's enough. So yeah.
So cool. You've brought in so many different concepts, and many of them might be new to people. And you did kind of explain a little bit existential analysis. Do I have it right that it's kind of like understanding what the client or the patient understands about the purpose of their existence and why things might matter to them when you're trying to shift behavior? Is that what that is?
So existential analysis was created by Viktor Frankl. And I don't know if you know who he is, but he survived one of the concentration camps. And he was forgive me if I'm incorrect, but he was a psychologist or a psychiatrist when he was in there. And he looked for ways. So his one of his book titles is The Truth to Meaning, or finding the way for meaning. And so meaning to actually
man's search for meaning or something.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. So I have read the book, but I like names. I can remember, I can talk to a person and I can remember all their disease concepts. I can remember their facial features. I can remember their family dynamics. I just can't remember their first name, which is really bad. So it's one of the things I'll have to work on. But yes, the man's search for meaning. So he really wanted to know like what drives people. So I know I always refer back to, like, in times of stress, we always look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you ever think about your own life, you're always like, when you get stressed, what do you think about? Okay, well, where's my kids? Where's my family? Where's my food? Where's my shelter? So even in times with these floods that we're having recently, where do we live? What do we eat? How do we get those things? Those are the paramount things that happen for us, right? The basic needs. So Viktor Frankl has stemmed on that, and he also talks about self-transcendence as well. And he looks at what is the basic needs for driving things. So he's got 4 pillars of what motivates people. And so they're concepts. It's a logotherapy concept. It's his own. It's like Freudianism or Adlerian theories. It's Viktor Frankl's theories. And so it's been really, really invaluable at learning it. So I'm halfway through the program, and it is 7 years. And at the end of it, I'll get some letters behind my name, which will be really nice, but it'll be something to the tune of psychotherapy. But I might have to, or psychotherapist, I might have to get my Master of Arts in counseling and psychology in there, which is doable. So, but it's really interesting to learn the concepts of what drives somebody. What is the fundamental motivation of life? So fundamental motivations for what do you need to feel safe? Think about your own kitchen dining room table, for instance, when you come home from dinner. Where do you go to when you come home? Everybody knows that's dad's chair, right? No one else sits there because that's dad's chair. That's your space. That's your little safety patch, the place where you can sit and you can launch from. So when you think about even in your office, you have a place where you put your coffee cup, or you have a way of doing things. This is really important because it's you gain some safety in your own life, some space in your own life, so that you can then have space to sort of explore other areas. And without a safety patch to launch from, you can't have that. So if you think about your own life, that's so true, right? You can't be of service to anybody or engage with everybody else if your safety needs aren't met, right? So some of your basic pillars of life. So Maslow has like the food and safety and shelter, but so does Viktor Frankl. And so he has so many different concepts, and it's been amazing to develop some deep, meaningful connections with the cohort of people that I'm with, and to understand through learning, through experiential learning. It's really given me the good lens to kind of know where I want to go with my own life. And I don't know what that is fully yet, but I do know that I'm wanting to continue to explore on that, because I think it's worthy. I think it's valuable. And a lot of the times I realize that in healthcare as well, like higher up in healthcare, I know that you had posted something recently to the effect that there's a few people in certain circles, and if the lens isn't in a good direction, it's really hard to create the change that you would hope that that lens would illuminate. And so in order to be somebody that actually focuses that lens, I realize that I want to do more things and get different experiences and education, so that I can maybe be one of those people that can help illuminate those areas and those focuses, so that we can kind of, together with people like yourself and other people who are really interested in not just getting a great job, because that does nothing for me. It does nothing for me, but getting a great job so you can actually help people. That's amazing. What a gift, what an honor that you can receive, to have that honor to be able to provide service to people that actually would value, and the downstream that happens from that. Like, that's a great honor. So somebody who dedicates their craft, and you know these people, you can see them in their element, the cleaners that are out there, the cooks that are at the kitchen or in the hospitals, or the care aides or the nurses, or even some of the doctors, when they're at their true craft, when they're doing what they're meant to do, it's amazing to see somebody in their capacity, right? So being able to find those people and try to harness something out of out of working with them would be really, really great. These like good think tank learning groups. And I think it takes a village sometimes. You can have the people that tell you how to do those things, but if they don't have experiences and they don't have a good base from which to pull, it can be problematic.
It's clear to me that you've consistently, as you said, put yourself in uncomfortable situations. You've leaned into courage in so many different areas of exploration in your careers and shifts that you've made. You actually put yourself from a little bit of safety, but you stretch yourself to experience and work on weaknesses, or work on gaps, or innovation gaps that you call them.
Mhm.
What do you think gives you this courage to continue to stretch and explore and destabilize really a lot of.
You know what? I think I had such shame for so long. I had such shame for so many years, and it was only until I took that the first leadership course, where I had to write a timeline of my life, and I had such shame in not completing things that I wanted to do because of life's events. And I wanted to do this, but something happened, and I wanted to do that, but that something happened, and it wasn't for lack of trying or ability or aptitude. It was legitimate challenges that stepped in my way. And until I actually wrote them down and really looked at it from a leadership lens, and looked at those weren't downfalls, but those were crucibles. So things that you learn that help contribute to make the building blocks of the person that you are, so that you can launch from that. So I think what I learned was that I haven't, all of my shame years, and it was quite debilitating sometimes, like just not like really feeling really, really challenged and feeling really inadequate. And then I realized actually it's not shame, it's resiliency. So when I turned that lens of from shame to resilience, then I learned that I have the aptitude to be able to really have resiliency. And despite having that sort of air of feeling quite shameful that I never completed all the things that I had wanted to do, it was okay, because then I learned that because of that, I learned how to find another way. So water is the most passive thing, but water can erode mountains, as we know, right? Water can erode holes through things. And I think that learning to, sometimes we get great movement and great change by doing things that are passive and maybe not forceful, but some of those things forced my changes into doing things differently. And so I wanted to get a different result. So I had to be willing to do things differently. And so for me, that was a huge ability to learn how to do that. And just, I realized that one thing that was consistent is I always allowed myself to be put into another area of, okay, well, let's try this. Okay, well, let's try that. Well, let's see what else we can do. And you can let things get you down very easily, but you can also challenge yourself to see, well, I know this is really kind of crappy right now, but what else can we do from it? Maybe there's some benefit that we can get from this. Maybe there's a way we can learn from it. So if anything, we can learn, we don't want to achieve those same results. So at the end of like codes, or at the end of, bad concepts, I always love the little, huddle afterwards. And okay, so what worked well, what didn't work well, what can we do better next time? I think it's so valuable to have that. So I do that all the time with myself. What worked well, what didn't work well, what can we do better next time? How can we achieve more? And what will be a better or greater concept for people that we're involved with? How would that be received differently with people? How could we be more inclusive with our groups? How could we actually try to, the quiet people that are at the table, they might not be quiet, maybe they're just observant, which they're the ones that have the most wealth of knowledge and information, because instead of talking, some people are nervous talkers. Instead of talking, they're listening, and they're like really retaining all the information like a sponge. And if you squeeze them a little bit with gentle love and, like I want to hear you, I see you, I want to encounter you, I want to encounter what personhood you are, then you'll get so much wealth of information from them. So I think that's, if you don't allow yourself to be put in those positions, then you miss out on so much. And I think a little bit of shame and humility is a good thing for people. I've met some people that have had perfect lives, and that's perfect for them. But I see them now in their 50s and 60s, and they don't know how to deal with rejection, and they don't know how to deal with discontentment. And it's really, really hard for them because they've always done things and things have always fallen into place. And so now when things are not falling into place for them, they really struggle with, I have no ability to be resilient or to try to problem solve or do things differently. So as an observer, that's interesting to see that. And so in that, I'm grateful for some of the challenges I've had.
What did you mean by you had a lot of shame for things that you didn't complete? Are you just talking about your educational things?
My educational things, yeah. I mean, I've always, for so many years, I had always wanted to do things, and and it was, so I had always wanted to have kids, and we couldn't have kids for years. And so then I thought, okay, no problem, I'll throw myself into my studies, which I did. So I did 3 years of my nursing degree, and that was great. And then I got pregnant with my first child, and I was just like, just when you think everything is going good, no, you have to change trajectory. So it was learning how to do that. And I couldn't do both. I had a really high risk pregnancy. So it was either choose this or choose that. So of course, I chose my family and my child and my pregnancy, and just learning how to like not be able to be where I had imagined. I had imagined so many different things for myself, but at the same time, had I gone down those roads, I might be like one of those perfect people that had everything happen perfectly. And then when you get in your older years of life and you have nothing that sort of forced you to course correct, when you're starting to deal with some sort of negative concepts for things or loss or that sort of thing, I might not be able to experience it as in such a way that I can now. So
I think I know what you mean. You mean that you hit a lot of barriers, and you were kind of almost like upset at yourself for letting those barriers, quote unquote, slow you down from your achievements. But then
yeah,
you shifted your perspective to say, I have those barriers, but I can still move on. I'm resilient. Is that kind of the shift that you're talking about?
that's right. And it's only until recently that I actually said to myself, it's okay, I don't actually need the RN degree anymore. That's just, it literally is just an ego box. I just realized it's just an
Mm,
ego check mark. I'm so far past it. I'm
mm,
so far past the need to do, I'm a great nurse. I've been a great nurse for 20 years. I'm a great nurse. I can, I have a lot to give. I've always pushed myself into all the areas of how to do things and what are my limitations in LPN, what can I do, and why are we not incorporating more LPNs to work at their scope? There's some brilliant LPNs out there. Why can't we do that? Why is everything having to be, I get that there's systems. I get that, absolutely. And there has to be safety things, and there have to be procedures, but there should also be a way to maximize and give what we have. And especially with our healthcare system the way it is, going back to the teaching in-house. Imagine if we could actually learn how to teach in-house. So as doctors, you guys have what, 4 years, 5 years of residency. You learn how to be a doctor on house. You've done all the education, but then you actually learn how to do it pragmatically. So what if, as an LPN, I did all of my RN theory courses. I did everything before I had to stop. And then I did all the LPN theory courses. And I tell you, it was incredible. The amount that I actually learned from LPN theory courses was just as much as an RN, because you have to learn everyone's kidneys filter the same, whether I'm an LPN or an RN, they all filter the same. So you have to learn the process the same. So the knowledge base is there. It's just learning the practical experience and getting that little bit more hands-on. So what if we created a new way of delivering a healthcare education? So everybody goes to school to become an LPN. You do 2 years of hardcore university, and then you learn on the job, and you can specialize into medicine or into nephrology or into oncology or into wherever you want to go, and you work on site with those doctors and those nurses that vet you just like you do when you're in medical school. And if you're not ready, well, here you go, here's another few more months. If you're not ready, here's another few more months. I think that might be one way that we can actually deliver some better things, because I've worked with some nurses that are brilliant nurses, some RNs that have gone to school. When they were 19, they went to school, they graduated, they worked maybe 6 months, and then they decided to take their master's of nursing, and then they got a job as a manager. So here you are, have these, brilliant young staff that are managing units with this big responsibility, but they have no experience, none. They have no idea how to actually talk to people. They have no experience with strife and challenges, and they haven't been able to develop the resourcefulness. And so then you tend to get people that lead with an iron fist, and because it should be this way, but sometimes it can't. So you're right, it should, but sometimes it can't. So how do you do it when it should, but you also can't have it? So where is the middle ground? And if you don't know how to experience and navigate those crucibles, right? Turn away from shame, deal with failure, deal with experience of life. How do you navigate that? And so these are the people that have the letters behind their name that are, it's awesome. They've got the letters behind their name, but does everybody, I always found it challenging, because I've worked with some people that are brilliant and some people that should have been in those circles. And so I think one of your posts I interacted with, because I thought one of the interesting classes I took was about action learning groups. And so really the number seven is the amount of people that you should have a meeting. If you have less than number 7, then you don't have enough people to talk. If you have more than 7, then not everybody gets heard. And the true, the boisterous leaders, come out and they speak and everyone listens to them. But if you have 7 people at a table and you talk about things, and you don't just have 7 people with all letters behind your name, you have the janitor, and you have the carried, and you have the cook, and you have people that actually give you different perspectives of, yeah, but we can't do that because of this, or yeah, but we can't do that because of that, because sometimes you have some upstream problems so the downstream people don't know about, and vice versa. You have some downstream problems that the upstream people have no concept on. And so how do we make changes with the healthcare system if we're going to consistently do things the same all the time? Where, no, I have more letters behind my name, I'm going to tell you what needs to get done because I know how to do that, and that's my job. But you know what? Maybe not everybody needs to be at every conversation. Not everybody does. But maybe we have some little beautiful little segments of action learning groups at different points, sort of as a check base with, we're dealing with a society of people. You have top, middle, and low. We were dealing with a society of people. So why don't we have the society of people that care for them be at these checkpoint conversation spots so that we can say, hey, well, what about this? Are there any downstream problems that upstream people haven't thought of, and vice versa, so that when you actually go to make the protocols and you actually go to make the changes that matter, you've been really given due diligence. Because I think that that's part of the honor that is bestowed to people that are allowed to make those decisions for society. It's an honor that you get. You don't get it. And I always tell my daughter, who's 14, there's a difference between privilege and a right. So her cell phone is a privilege. It is not a right. So if she disobeys or acts, untoward or isn't kind and humble, then she gets her privilege of her cell phone revoked, right? Because it's not a right. Just because you get to that level doesn't give you the right to make all those decisions without having, done your due diligence of asking, how does this fit with people? I'm commanding a society here. Hey, society, how does that fit with you? Have I met all your needs? Because you might not know what they are unless you ask. And you might have that quiet person that you have to squeeze gently with lots of love and care and concern and safety and say, hey, I genuinely want to encounter you. I genuinely want to hear, what are your problems? Right? What are the challenges? And if you could do anything differently, how would you see it built differently? Because you might get some little tiny pearls of wisdom from the cleaner that you would have no idea about, right? You really wouldn't until you actually ask them. And so that might be something different on how you design a hospital, or how you design a workflow, or how you run your day, because I think that if you don't actually invite the people that you serve as the leader, because if you're a leader and you think that you should lead people because they should follow you, then you shouldn't be the leader. If you're a leader and you lead people, then you need to serve them so that you serve them. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to make your life better. How can I serve you so that you can live your life better? Because then I'll take your information and I'll go and tell the other people that have to tell them so that I can lead them to serve you better. So I think that that is something that really, really needs to happen so much more. And the only way you learn how to serve them is by being humble and asking the people that might not otherwise be asked, because they have ideas that you might not otherwise be privy to. So it's really, really important to be inclusive.
That
So I
resonates.
think
Mhm.
I think that's one of the key takeaways with my professional scholastic career has been like, constantly having to, yeah, but, always be the person at the table going, yeah, but what if we, but I never really was warranted an audience because I didn't have the letters behind my name until finally I stopped. I just stopped. That didn't seem to be a bother to me. So people listened to me after a while, but then I thought, well, yeah, because I'm going to have to deal with it. So eventually I'm going to have to deal with it. So just, let's meet the problem, because eventually it's going to come down this way. Just I'll be patient. I'll wait. Okay, good. Now can we get on with it? So
That resonates so much. I think a lot of times in our system, leaders are sometimes really afraid to actually ask patients, what was your experience really like? Because I think that they believe that they know. They believe that they know that the system did not meet their expectations, and they don't feel that they have the power nor the resources to make a big shift.
mhm.
Uh, yeah, and so then they just shortcut it and they just exclude those voices, because they know if they ask, they don't feel like they have what it takes to actually make a change to improve it.
And that's so sad. And like I can feel that, like I can feel that to the depth, because I think sometimes too, the leaders that actually care, that actually take the time to sit down and take 10 minutes out of your day when you're so busy serving others, right? We have to remind ourselves of that. So busy serving others. When you take 10 minutes out of your day to actually sit down with somebody, you have to actually take the time to be there with them, to meet them at their level, to be present with them. And if you're busy, a lot of the times I'm busy up in my mind, you have to take the time for you to slow down so you can actually get in there and to connect with somebody, right? And it's so sad that if you don't feel like you can actually get a good answer out of them, or sometimes patients too, they feel, why am I going to talk to this person? Because they're probably going to be like every other person and just say, okay, how was your stay? Oh, was it good? Okay, awesome. Oh, you had a problem? Oh, sorry about that. See you next time.
So
Right?
patients sometimes don't feel like they want to engage anyways because they don't believe that change is possible? Or
Well, they don't believe that change is possible. So I remember recently I took the 10-hour program that we do with safety, cultural safety and humility, that was offered through PSHA, I think it is, and I can't remember the name of it, but which is really bad. Um, but it dealt with when you have a First Nations patient, how could like so just it taught about their process, and it was eye-opening, and I learned that I had so much of my own bias, and I've always been very open-minded. I lived in another country. I'm open-minded to experiences, and when I watched that, I saw myself in some of those teachings, and I thought, oh my gosh, I do that, I believe that, and I have my own cognitive bias on that. Wow, I need to check that. I need to learn about that. So after I took that program, I remember I had the honor of caring for a First Nations lady. And she came into the hospital. I cared for her for several days. And I said to her at the end of it, because I thought, you know what, I'm going to do what they told us to do in the training. I'm going to ask her, my patient, how could I have done things better? So I actually took the time, and I took the time, and I sat and I listened with her, and I said to her, I really appreciate that you're here as a patient, as any other patient in the hospital. Absolutely. And I treat you and I engage with you the same way. But if I was to provide some sort of cultural safety or cultural way of approaching my care deliverance to you, could there be something that I could have done different? Or would you have liked to seen something offered different that wasn't currently here? And so it was a really good experience because it caught her off guard because she had never been asked that before. And she didn't know how to say it. And she said to me, I've had a really good, all the nurses have been great, all the doctors have been great. It would be nice for them to have more time, just to like this time that we're experiencing, we're dialoguing. This was nice to actually one human meet another human instead of you're my work assignment, you're in 23A and you're my patient, right? One human meeting another human. And that was something that I resonated with me. And then I asked her, well, what about, because we ran a program one time at the Friendship Center, with our metabolic syndrome program. And so one of the elders there had said that they do Cedar bowel bathing. And I thought that was really interesting, because I thought, we live in an area that we are honoring, because we are on the sacred grounds and the lands of other peoples, First Nations peoples, and we don't have any of that in the way that we deliver healthcare. So how do we respectfully ask, how can we deliver things differently for you? Because I think that if we say, okay, oh good, you like that, and you like this, and you like that, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to tell you how we're going to dictate all of our care to you, and we're going to do all these things. I think that's exactly what's happened in the past, and exactly what's been done to them. And to people in the past in several different concepts. And so I think that it's out of curiosity and continual searching, searching for meaning, like how can I meet you at your level? Where is your level? What does that matter to you? And how can I meet you? How can I be a better service to you? How can I make your experience in this world that I live in? I live in healthcare world. When you come into my world, how can I make your experience in this healthcare world better? How can I actually promote healing and promote healthcare concepts? Because that's what we're all about. I think connectivity with people, like having these conversations, meeting you and actually connecting with you on a level, is going to be so much more beneficial. And it takes time. It does take time to take time out of your day. But I think that if you make the time for those commitments to your health and to meeting with people, you will be so much rewarded, because you'll be able to take these little nuggets to other areas that you go, and you'll remember this conversation tonight when you go to sleep. You'll go home and you'll sleep, and some of the things will formulate in your brain, and you'll remember that tomorrow or the next day or in 6 months from now, you'll meet somebody and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. I have an experience already with that. Maybe I'll try this differently. And so it's like, when you are able to, you give yourself the grace of being able to connect with somebody on a real basic level, like a fundamental level of connection. It's like creating the best stone soup ever. So I always love, have you ever heard the concept of stone soup?
No.
So there was a man who was hungry, and he came into a village, and he was a traveling man, and he traveled all through different villages, and he had a big pot, and all he had was a pot with water and stones, and that was it. And so he traveled into this country, or to this village, and he said to the first person he met, he said, "Hey, I'm hungry. Are you hungry?" And the person said yes. And he said, "Okay, great. I have a big pot and I have stones to put in the pot, but that's it. I have water and stones. What do you have? What do you have that you could add?" So the first person added onions. The next person added carrots. The next person added meat. And so he talked and he walked and he talked and he gathered all these information or ingredients from everybody in the village. And they all got together at the end of the day because they all contributed a little bit of something. Not everybody had everything, but everybody had something to contribute. And so at the end of the night, the guy sat there and cooked his pot of water with his stones in it, and everybody else dropped their own ingredients in, and they had the best meal together that nobody could have created on their own. So I think the concept of creating stone soup in healthcare is so valuable. And I think that it's not a unique concept. It's sort of similar to the action learning groups, or similar to these many, many meetings that we go to, the focus groups and the focus groups and the leadership only groups. And it's because we're trying to capture the little tidbits and jewels of everybody to try to create the best stone soup in healthcare. So I think if there's ways, so you, Lawrence, as a leader in healthcare and being with, the quality improvement, try to find ways to create that stone soup. Create that stone soup for the best way that you can do it, because it will be the best soup you'll ever have, in a really long time. And you can never recreate it though. That's the neat thing about it. You can't recreate these sort of magical experiences, because you just have to try to obtain or achieve more of them, right? So I think that's the drive that always gets me going, to try to find more ways to experience that.
That's so cool. That really resonates, that really inclusive and cognitively diverse cooks in the kitchen. That's
Yeah.
really cool. And now you mentioned that you're going to consider doing a doctor's of business administration. How is that different from a master's of business administration?
So I looked at a lot of different programs. Actually, there was one school that I wanted to take that was a doctorate of behavioral health studies, and so it dealt with medications for, and it fits with my studies, like with what I do with my program. It fits with behavioral concepts. It's not a psychologist or psychiatrist or any of that, but it fits with behavioral concepts to try to use behavioral adaptivity to change and have a better life. It also gives you medications that you could use. So that would give me the ability to be a consultant. So again, be part of the team, but not being able to do anything, no real true direct patient care. The other thing that I was looking at is the doctorate of behavioral or a doctorate of business administration with a healthcare concept, because that would allow me to learn healthcare systems. Again, something that I don't really know. So I don't know a lot of healthcare systems. So despite being working in them for 20 years, of course, but I want to learn more of that level, that why are things chosen that way? So I thought that would be a good experience to have that. Again, kind of like when I did my preceptorship in the OR. I know I'd never work there, but at least I'd know what it was. So.
Yeah, you're just filling in the gaps of your experience, just trying to absorb all of it.
Yeah, well, it's that innovation gap. I realize I've solved a problem. Okay, good. I have a degree. Awesome. Well, now I need another one. Okay, well, I don't know enough about that. Well, the best way to learn it is to go by the teachers who teach that. So now I need to go to get another degree in that, and then another degree. So if I could, my most favorite way of doing something would be actually to be able to go get a job where I can have continual learning, where I can challenge myself to do things so I can be of greater service to people and just be involved in things that matter. At the end of the day, that's really all I want to achieve in life. So
That's so beautiful. You had mentioned a lot of different innovation things that you've been doing, and some international innovations, e-health stuff, kind of clinic box experiences. And you're very passionate about learning and leadership and health delivery, chronic disease. behavioral modifications. What are some of the opportunities that you feel are really untapped in our current British Columbia system, health system? What's one area that you feel like we haven't put enough energy or resources towards?
Education. So education programs. So I constantly, I've had the honor of in the clinic, medical clinic, helping onboard IMGs, helping onboard observers. So working with the doctors who are willing to spend part of their day and time to be that observer for an IMG who wants to come in, looking at these brilliant people that are working, that are just, like here trying to desperately be able to be part of the healthcare system. And they're here, they're fully bodied, abled people that they just can't practice because they don't have the letters behind their name. Right? They're educated, they know how to do the job, but they can't quite get it because they haven't been granted that access. There's limited seats. So I don't know what I would do, but I know that I would ask a lot of questions. Well, how do we get more seats? Well, what does that look like? Could we do something different? What's the end goal here? And again, if we look at the end goal of what we actually want to achieve in healthcare, so instead of doing, well, we do step A and step B and step D and step D, and that gets us to E, which E is the end result. Well, if we want to do E for the end result, is there another way? Can we do it differently? Can we try something differently? What are the things that we actually need to do? Do we need to satisfy the needs that they can do this and this and this and this? Well, can we ask them a different way to show that they can do that? So even just with doctors, with IMGs, with international medical grads, with the protocols, the procedures. Oh, sorry. 1 sec. No. Off you go. Okay. Off you go. So that's something that I really am keen on. And then also just like the nursing, the LPN to RN. I remember when they trained carrieds to be LPNs, that was a bit of a stretch because I watched some of the carrieds. Again, I worked with some carrieds that are wickedly intelligent. And so intelligence versus book smarts are two different things. A lot of people don't know that. But you can have somebody that has street smarts and intelligence and book smarts and can do many, many things. But, that's something that if we can foster, if there's a way to develop somebody or reward people for their aptitudes, reward people for their skills, ask them what their end goal is. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is there a way that I can help you get there? Is there something that I can do to help challenge, to break down barriers? So for me, it was always being able to care for my kids and being able to, have people around me so that I could help support my kids, so that I could go to school, and just navigating that. Sometimes that's a challenge. So again, that is solving a healthcare problem. So why don't we create a healthcare institution that has daycares on site? So how many, female doctors are first to go back to work in 6 weeks, because that's what it's like in the States, right? 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and they're in their little cubby holes, trying to do the best for their baby. So they have their breast pumps in the room, and they're sitting there and they're flooded with emotions, and it's a thing. So I never realized that pregnancy brain was a thing until I became pregnant and thought, I'm intelligent, but I'm pregnant and my brain is just gone with this. Mommy brain is a thing, right? So I think rewarding people by just giving them like basic human needs to have that time. So how can we make things differently? Can we give like daycares inside hospital institutions or next door to it? So imagine having a glass room for daycare where you see all these awesome little tiny creatures playing and running around and having so much fun. These are the children, right? And then at the same time, you have the extended care facility where you have extended care people observing that. You have the older population, which we don't honor as much as I would love to see in our Canadian culture. I'd love to see more honor bestowed to our geriatric population. So imagine having a daycare for geriatrics and for pediatrics, a daycare, essentially, right? Wouldn't that be fun? So you do, of course, we're living in a community where we have to deal with hand hygiene, we have to do all these other things, but there's so many things that you could learn from people. Another concept I learned somewhere else was really interesting was, what if you could rent a book? You can at a library. Well, what if we created a library for people? Can you imagine? So one of the things that I loved the most out about being a nurse was the ability to live vicariously through everybody else, because healthcare is ingrained in my DNA. I'm the only person in my family that's involved in healthcare. So it is through and through for me. But I used to always, ask people, so what do you do for a living? Wow, that's interesting. You're a crane operator? What does that look like? What do you have to do? Wow, your healthcare disease process must really impinge your ability to do X, Y, and Z. Interesting. What can we do to help solve that for you so you can still give back meaningfully to your community of choice? By I can offer some healthcare options for you to talk to this person and that person, or ask your doctor about this sort of thing. Because when you go back, your disease progress is going to be this, this, and this. So you should maybe ask the doctor about that, that, and that, so you can have a better outcome for your quality of life, and you can give back to your community as well. So I think encouraging people to think outside the box is something that isn't done enough. And getting people trained up who want to be there, doing a rewards-based culture. So many things are set on money, and we can just print more money. If you want a bigger dollar bill, we'll just print more money, but then it's redundant and it's useless at the end of the day. I think rewards need to be encouraged to be a little bit more intrinsic, and they need to be felt a little bit more in here. And I think that we need to give positive recognition more often. I know I see it a lot of the times in Fraser Health, and it's wonderful. I see that they do the pay the staff member of the month, or we recognize these people. But I think that when you're dealing with people, I always tried to make a point of sending a letter of thank you for any interaction that I had with a different group of people, or if I was sending a patient with PTN from one hospital to the next, and it was really challenging, and I had a great person at the end of the other line helping me. I actually made a point of calling to speak to their supervisor to say, hey, you know what? Susie Smith helped me. And I just want to tell you, Susie Smith made my day as a nurse way better, because she took the time, she listened, she was helpful. She took an extra 3 minutes out of her day, because that's all the interaction was. It was just 3 minutes long, but she made such a better day for me. And I, in turn, had a better day for my 7 patients that I cared for. I talked to my colleagues better. I served my physicians better because I had a great day with Susie, or great 3 minutes with Susie. So I think that simple things like that, saying, hey, you know what? I interacted with you. I valued it. It made me better. It made me feel better and more whole. So thank you for seeing me. Thank you for actually encountering me and seeing me and sharing space with me, because we don't do that enough at all.
Absolutely. Hey, that's super inspiring. I I think I'm gonna have to do that, and I have not thought of to do that before, to reach out and to really thank people who've who are really doing their job in a fantastic way.
They're
It's,
in their craft. You see them
mm,
in their craft, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it's an honor to witness somebody who's in their element and they're doing their thing. And it's just who they are at the core of their being. And it's like, wow, this was
yeah.
great. You're awesome for being right where you're exactly doing what exactly you need to be doing, exactly where and when you need to be doing it. Thank you for letting me witness that.
I love how so many of your ideas here had to do with untapped talent and bringing that to the fore, uh, untapping a lot of the value that people have, their talents, their drive, their intrinsic drives and motivations, and then finding synergisms between uh, different opportunities there. Yeah, really inspiring stuff, Lori.
Thank you
I
so much.
Oh, I've taken up a lot of your time and your energy today. Um, Thanks so much for coming on and sharing. I
Yeah,
think a lot of this will inspire a lot of people.
wonderful. Well, good luck with everything. And I so look forward to engaging with you in the future. I hope we can cross paths, professionally or anything. Yeah, it'll be really great. We'll keep doing it.
Awesome. And
Okay, take
I'll
care.
see you on Facebook.
Okay, take
Goodbye,
care. Okay,
Lori. Have
bye-bye.
a great day. Bye.